Welcome to New Zealand Travel News, the segment where we go over the news that people looking to travel to or around New Zealand may care about. We are the team behind New Zealand's largest travel guide, NZ Pocket Guide. I am Robin and this is Laura.
All right, let's start off the news section with the vaccination efforts in New Zealand at the moment. So currently we have 92% of the eligible population have had their first dose, 85% of the eligible population have had their second dose, and there are over 5,500 COVID-19 cases in the community.
Yeah, so the New Zealand vaccination efforts have ramped up quite a lot in the last few months, and we have passed that 90% threshold. Now what we're looking at is having the DHB, which is a district health board of each different region, passing that 90%. Because at the moment, the largest amount of vaccinations come from Auckland and Wellington, which are dragging the whole country's numbers up, which is really good. But there are some regions in New Zealand which have much lower vaccination rate, and the government is working on evening this out.
All right, our next piece of news comes from a snippet from Stuff, published on the 25th of November 2021, entitled Youth Hostel Association New Zealand to permanently close 11 hostels. The Youth Hostel Association of New Zealand, YHA New Zealand, says it is permanently closing 11 hostels because of the unsustainable financial position created by Auckland's lockdown and New Zealand's international border restrictions. Hostels set to close under the YHA New Zealand's management are YHA Auckland International, YHA Rotorua, YHA Wellington, YHA Christchurch, YHA Lake Tekapo, YHA Aoraki Mount Cook, YHA Wanaka, YHA Queenstown Central, I've never said YHA so often in my life, YHA Queenstown Lakefront, YHA Franz Joseph, and YHA Tiano. They will all close on the 15th of December, and it's not clear how many staff will be affected. YHA New Zealand General Manager Simon Cartwright said 23 individually owned and operated associate properties would continue to operate as normal.
So it's the end of an era in New Zealand. The YHA, the Youth Hostel Association, has been present in the country for 89 years. And although it looks like that means that there is going to be very little offering left for backpackers being able to travel in New Zealand, that's not really the case. As mentioned in the article, all the independently owned YHA hostel are still going to be operating, and there is still plenty of backpacker and youth accommodation around the country. So it's the end of an era. It was a really big brand in New Zealand. It was, and I don't even think they're not going to come back. Maybe they will be able to come back, but at this stage it's just a different branding. But backpackers will still be able to come to New Zealand, and there still is going to be an offering for affordable accommodation in New Zealand. It will leave a big hole in some areas like in Mount Cook and in Lake Tekapo, which have traditionally have had very limited amount of available accommodation. However, for most other places, it's going to be fine for budget travelers to be able to travel. And even in those areas that I was mentioning, there are some other options which may be a little bit less affordable, but there are some other options. So don't panic. If you were planning to travel New Zealand on a budget, you'll still be able to do that.
All right, moving on to our next snippet, which is from RNZ, Radio New Zealand, published on the 24th of November 2021, entitled Major MIQ Changes from Early Next Year. Most fully vaccinated travellers into New Zealand will not need to go through managed isolation from early next year. COVID-19 Response Minister Chris Hipkins and Director General of Health Dr. Ashley Bloomfield revealed the latest at today's COVID-19 briefing. A mandatory 7-day self-isolation period will still be in place for people not required to enter MIQ. From the 16th of January 2022, fully vaccinated New Zealanders and other eligible travellers can travel to New Zealand from Australia without staying in managed isolation or quarantine, Hipkins says. From the 13th of February, fully vaccinated New Zealanders and other eligible travellers can travel to New Zealand from all other countries. And from the 30th of April, fully vaccinated foreign travellers can travel to New Zealand. This will happen in a staged way, Hipkins says. This will be one of the final steps in opening, he said. Hipkins said New Zealand was now in a position to start moving back to normality, with a reminder that travel in 2022 will still be different.
So we already have 2 videos on the channel covering this announcement. First up, we do have a video where I go over all the key takeaways of the announcement, as well as literally let's play the full announcement so you get the news from the source. And we also have a video of me literally explaining if travelers will really be able to come to New Zealand post April 2022. But before but if you haven't watched those ones, sorry, I'd like to clarify a couple of points that I feel are the main kind of point of confusion for a lot of people wanting to come to New Zealand very, very soon. So first up, and I'm just going to focus on the opening for all travelers in April on the 30th of April 2022, just because I do feel like this is the where most of the interest is. So the first thing that I want to point out is that even post 30th of April 2022, there is still going to be heavy restrictions in coming to New Zealand. Namely, you will need a pre-departure test, which is obviously negative. You will need to be fully vaccinated, and I am currently working on trying to find the list of all the vaccines which are going to be accepted in New Zealand. You will need to do a passenger declaration about your travel history. You're going to need to do a day 01 test on arrival, but most importantly, you will still need to self-isolate for 7 days. That means that at your own cost, you will need to self-isolate in a hotel, or you will need to self-isolate in your home or with friends and family. And remember that self-isolating with friends and family may lead to a great effect onto their everyday lives as well. So there is still going to be those restrictions, and those restrictions I just talked about are still going to be in place even post 30th of April 2022. Another requirement is obviously to get a final negative test before being released in the community. So I do understand that a lot of people are very excited about those news, but I really want to make sure that everybody does understand that there are still some restrictions right here, and I feel like the mainstream medias have not really explained that clearly enough, and that leads to everybody thinking they can literally start coming to New Zealand on the 30th of April 2022, which is not the case. You will be able to come to New Zealand, but you have to abide by those restrictions. The next thing that I would like to point out, and I'm going to keep that short because I literally have like 2 videos already on the channel, and genuinely you should check them out. I go in great details about that. Is that the opening on the 30th of April 2022 is going to be done in a staged way, and that's the quote from Mr. Chris Hipkins. We do not know what those stages are going to be. We don't know if that's going to be a certain amount of countries that are going to be able to come to New Zealand first and then other countries later. Some countries deemed safe and then some other countries. We don't know if there's going to be some different type of visas first and then going again in a staged way. We don't know if there's going to be a certain amount of quota let into New Zealand for a certain amount of time, and then they're going to start increasing the quota. We don't know what those stages are going to be. There's been no communication about that. Also, there's been this new variant of the COVID-19, the Omicron variant, which is currently spreading through Africa, through the southern part of Africa. So we don't know if that's going to affect the new government plans as well. So there's still a lot of uncertainty in the air right now, and I don't think that it is a cause for everybody should be booking their holidays to New Zealand just yet. It means that we are taking some very good step in the right direction. It's a very positive step. We're really happy about it, and we want everybody to be able to come to New Zealand. However, it doesn't mean that it's a free fall starting on the 30th of April 2022. All right, sorry for the dad talk. I just really wanted to make sure that I give you as clear information as possible so you guys are well informed. Moving on to something positive, the deal of the day. Yeah,
so our New Zealand travel deal of this week is to Waimangu Volcanic Valley, which is a huge geothermal park in Rotorua, and their deal is for the walk-only family pass is 65 New Zealand dollars instead of 96 New Zealand dollars. Alternatively, they have the full walk and boat cruise experience, which is for the family pass 115 New Zealand dollars instead of 206 New Zealand dollars, and the family pass includes 2 adults and 3 children.
So yeah, the Waimangu Volcanic Valley is a fantastic place to visit. Both Laura and I really like it. And again, the price that she gave you, $65 and 115. That is for 5 people. That's 2 adults and 3 children. That is actually dead cheap. It's really cool, and it's a place that we do really enjoy. So we recommend you guys to check that out. Alright guys, that's gonna wrap up this new segment. If you want to support our channel, consider joining us on Patreon. There is a link in the description below, and you'll be able to get some super perk, including some one-on-one time with Laura and I, which may be really cool if you are planning a trip to New Zealand. You may also want to like and subscribe to reward our hard work and stay up to date with our videos. Plus check out nzpocketguide.com for thousands of tips, hidden gems, and much more. Alright, let's go back to the live chat. Let's see